My name is Matt Carlson, and I'm a professional videographer based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Yesterday, I received the new Sony a6700, and anytime I get a new camera in, I perform a series of tests just to make sure that I'm familiar with it before I use it out on a paid job. I don't normally share out these tests, but I thought this video could help someone who maybe has a similar camera or is trying to learn how to get better images. When it comes to video, besides proper white balance, one of the most important things is correct exposure for getting a good-looking image. Cinema cameras mostly use false color to nail exposure, but on lower-end cameras, such as the mirrorless kind, they mostly all use zebras. There are different numbers through the zebra range for how quickly they show up to help you know what the exposure is. If you are filming an interview, for instance, you can set the zebras to 70, and when you see them show up on the person's skin, then you know that their face is properly exposed. Usually for hair and makeup on wedding days, I will have the bride sit facing a window to get beautiful natural light on their face for some touch-up shots. A lot of times, they will have a bright white silky robe on for this, which reflects light a lot more than their face does. So for this, I need to know where in the zebra range this white shirt is clipping. It's too hard to tell just by looking at the small screen on the back of the camera. So this is where zebras come in clutch with knowing for sure. So that's the test we are going to do in this video. All right, so here we are on my computer, and I already did the test, and I'm not gonna bore you with the whole test because I do it pretty systematically, and it's just kind of boring just to watch. So I'm just gonna explain how I did the test and what you're looking for, and then maybe you can take your camera and kind of do a similar type of thing based on what types of things you film. This image here is sort of representing my bride with the creepy mannequin head, but the mannequin head really helps me with getting exposure and all that kind of stuff. So I actually use it a lot, especially when I'm filming myself as sort of a sit-in. But anyways, I have set the zebras to 95 because that's kind of where my previous cameras like the A7C and the A7 IV have been the sweet spot, with the zebras set at 95, so that when the zebras come on and you see them, that means that it's clipping in that spot. So basically what I do is I start off with an even exposure, and then I bump it up, as you see right there. Just bump it up to see where the zebras come in. So for this shot, where it starts, there's no zebras at all. And that's where I would want to film at. So I'm looking at the white of the shirt, making sure there's no clipping spots. I can see all the detail, and that her face also looks good. And that's actually even exposure. Then I bump it up to plus 0.3. And then there's a few zebras just on the left-hand side of the shirt, but it still looks okay. So you'd be safe in either one of these instances. But once I bump it up to plus 0.7, now there's zebras all the way across the shirt. And that would tell me, excuse the dog hair on the carpet, but that would tell me that I'm clipping on a lot of that white. And the biggest thing is just protecting the highlights, because you can always bump up the highlights, at least like color correcting on Final Cut and a lot of other NLEs that I've used before. It's easier to bump up highlights and it looks good. But if you get the highlights too bright in camera, it's really hard to bring them back down and keep the image looking as good, at least in my experience. So if anything, you want to slightly underexpose, but with different cameras, that might start introducing noise. With the Sonys, it doesn't, just because they're really good at low light and have really good internal noise reduction built in. But anyways, I'm getting a little off off topic. I just wanted to show you how I do these tests. So that's where the zebras show up on 95. Now when I go to 100 plus, now they're not going to show up until a lot brighter exposure. So like they're not even showing up until like right here across the shirt, which that is an overexposed image. I mean, I don't even have to look at my scopes to tell that that is clipping. This part here on the left is the word, so don't mind that. But this is the face and the shirt, and it's clipping. So 100 plus is typically what they tell you. Oh, if set it to 100 plus, and then if you see zebras, then bring it down. But I find that that's still too high, at least for these Sony cameras. And I'm filming in a neutral color profile for all of this. If you go to S-Log3, which I tend to use more outside when I need more dynamic range, in a controlled environment like this, where I do have a lot of shadow behind the subject, I'll use the neutral profile because it just is less noisy in the shadows, and I just like how it looks. So I use that, and I switch between that and S-Log3 anytime I go outside, or if there's a window in the background where I need a lot of dynamic range out of the sensor. So anyways, going to 100, they're going to show up a little bit earlier than the 100 plus, the zebras, but not as early as 95. So hopefully that's kind of, you're seeing the pattern. Now, when you go down to 90, you're going to see them way earlier. So than 95 or even 85, you're going to see zebras way earlier. So you're going to have to severely underexpose and you'll see the zebras. So 85 to me was too low, unless, like I said before, if you go all the way down to 70 on your zebras and then you have the person's face, once they show up on their face, the zebra is set at 70, then the face is properly exposed. But that doesn't take into account other things in the image. And I used to do that, but then I was sick and tired of seeing blown out wedding robes that are bright white and they're silky, so they reflect light. And so I just thought, well, I'm just going to underexpose their face a little bit to retain that detail in the robe. It was just a better looking image. So here at the end, I went back down to 95 and kind of decided that 95 was really the sweet spot. So it was the same as the A7 IV and the A7C. So hopefully this helps give you an idea. I just didn't want to bore you by just playing it, the actual test, but hopefully it gives you an idea on how the zebras work and how the different numbers show you where they're going to show up. So you really just have to walk that fine line of, okay, I like this image. It looks evenly exposed to me, and I don't see any zebras. And then the next bump up, you do see zebras, and that's where you're looking for clipped highlights. And that's kind of what I am doing back and forth in all of these clips. So anyways, hopefully that helps somebody out there. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm going to make a lot more videos on the A6700 and just on video in general. So subscribe for that, and catch you next time.